Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Andy Lambert Show. I'm your host and voice of Warrior Sports, Scott Hogan. Boy, what a tremendous game you were treated to Saturday if you made the trip down to Ottawa. Just one of the best matchups here the last 3 years have been the Warriors and the Braves. 39-34, Ottawa came out on top in Ottawa this past Saturday. And Coach, I think I told you in the post-game interview, I wish you played Ottawa every week. What a tremendous game, and I think your team showed great heart. They just kept coming back, and they fought to literally the very last minute before the game was decided.
Well, we have had some good matchups against Ottawa, these last 3 years, and sometimes you forget about that in the midst of preparing for a week against an opponent and those kind of things. But it was a lot of fun. I think it really, the outcome on the scoreboard is certainly not the outcome that anybody on the Sterling side would have wanted. But at some level, that game was a ton of fun. It was full of kind of energy and momentum swings on both sides, and I just had a blast the whole game, right up until kind of that final whistle.
Your rushing attack on Saturday, 49 carries, 179 yards, a little bit of a breakout game for Jesse Bundridge, 18 carries, 80 yards, had a couple of touchdowns, and then Rashard Colquitt, 14 for 54, but again effective, and still that fourth quarter at that time was the go-ahead score. Was a great call. When Otto brought pressure off the end, he gave the quick hitter right up the middle to Bundridge, and I'm not sure he was even touched on that play.
Well, I don't think he was. I mean, it was a read play, so that ball could have gone to one of probably three different people, and they read it right, I believe, and so yeah, you get some of those. Sometimes you call earlier in the first quarter on a drive we called a draw right into a blitz that we couldn't pick up, and so sometimes you get those. Sometimes you don't. You're certainly excited when you do, and it's fun to watch guys run untouched for 4 yards.
Yeah, I guess he actually got touched. He gets tackled as he crossed the goal line, which some great speed on Ottawa's part to actually catch him. Keoki Burbank, I thought he played what I would call a very smart game, very efficient game. 13 out of 21 through the air, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, which was really kind of that last drive where you had to really try to make something happen. And Matt James, 5 catches, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns, quickly becoming Keoki's favorite target. And that first touchdown, I need to see the film to understand how he caught it and got a foot down, but I thought those two played extremely well.
Yeah, it's really speculation anytime you compare a guy to a game last year or something like that. I mean, I guess you can look at stats, but I would say with Keoki that probably for what we needed out of him for that game, and what he was able to produce and do for us, it was as good a football game as he's played since he's been with us. And he started every game last year and played in the first 3 this year. So out of 13 games, we feel like that he made some tremendous strides. I think in practice last week. Some of that is, like we've talked about, he was injured for all the last 7 games last year with a relatively severe tear inside his shoulder. We come back in January, we get that all figured out. He has surgery immediately. He's in a sling and whatever for however many months. He can't even practice in the spring. He doesn't even start throwing the football around much until August. He gets here where he's a little bit limited, and so he split all the reps in fall camp. He split all the reps in the first 2 games, and so hopefully we're seeing from him just a growing up and a growing into his role and a growing into the offense that quite frankly we anticipated with him coming here, and I just don't think he's had a chance to do based upon the circumstances. Nothing that he's done, nothing that the team or the program has really done. It's just been that set of circumstances that maybe have hampered him from developing into the quarterback that we knew.
Opponent it is, the 3-0 McPherson Bulldogs. They were off last week, and they remained ranked number 7 in the country for the 2nd straight week. And as I was preparing for this show and looking through some stats and what McPherson has done this year, boy, it's hard to find a fault on this team or a weak area. They're solid, at least on paper. I haven't seen them play yet, offensively, defensively, and special teams, and just appears to be an all-around very good football team.
Well, Scott, they're probably better on video than they are on paper, so that gives you an idea. Just a well-balanced, talented football team. They play hard on both sides of the ball and special teams. They're committed to being physical. Their schemes are extremely well thought through and pertinent to the teams that they're playing. And so I think that's a good way to look at them. They just have no weak places anywhere in their program, and then you add, and a lot of teams we play have that, but then you go ahead and add sort of some exceptional athletic ability, to that mix, and they're an extremely dangerous team on both sides of the ball and their special teams.
Their offense, of course, right now is rated #1 in the conference through 3 games. 164 yards on the ground, 345 through the air, 50 points a game. Shane Mascarenas, the senior quarterback, is averaging 310 passing, has 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season. The thing that impressed me most, 67% completion percentage. So not only is he passing for yards, but he's making the most of those passing attempts.
He's a very good player, and I can't really add anything more to the statistics. 11 touchdowns in 3 games, throwing and 4 interceptions, and so he really is the. I think he really is the fuel behind their team, not just because he's a great football player, but also because I think the kind of guy he is and the way that he can, I really believe he's the kind of player that raises other people's ability. They have talented players, don't get me wrong, but I think that you have a player sometimes that'll come into your program who is not just great on the field, but people just feed off of him naturally, and I get a sense just from video and having played him last year that he's that kind of football player.
A couple of his main targets, this is a little unlike Ottawa. They do have one very good wide receiver, Andy Skinner, a 5'10", 175 junior, averages 5.3 receptions a game, but out of those near 5.5 catches, 137 yards he's averaging. Obviously does a lot with that football after the catch, 6 touchdowns, and really unlike Ottawa, McPherson will use the middle of the field with their 6'6", 220 tight end. He's also a junior, Joe Middleton, just under 6 receptions a game, 93 yards. He has 3 touchdowns, so boy, talk about defending the entire field against this team. You're really going to have to on Saturday.
Well, and I think, and you're probably going to mention this next. I'll beat you to the punch, but they've got an awesome running back.
Aaron Lafitte.
So they're talented at those positions, and they have other guys who can catch the ball. So, yeah, by and large, there's just there's not a lot I can add to the statistical criteria here for being a great football team, and they aren't just on paper. They were last year, and that has really carried over into the first third of the season for them.
And they make a concerted effort to run the football with that 5'9", 220 senior, Aaron Lafitte. He got 7 touchdowns on the season, 88 rushing yards. Also, can really catch the ball out of the backfield, so a definite dual threat as a back for them. Defensively, and that game is this Saturday right here at Smyser Stadium in Sterling. We're on our afternoon schedule for the rest of the season, a 1:30 kickoff, so our pregame will begin at 1:10. At 1:30, the number 7 ranked team in the country, the McPherson Bulldogs, will come in to challenge the 2-1 Sterling Warriors. It could be possibly the game of the year, so get out if you can. If not, tune in to sterling.edu or HKFM and enjoy the game. Should be fantastic weather and a fantastic ball game. Sterling and McPherson. I'd like to thank Chris Story for taking time out of his schedule to come in.